Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the IdOMUSIC podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And on today's episode, we sat down with Grammy Nominated engineer Dee Brown discussing a memorable Waka Flocka session, how his military background helps with his engineering, and becoming YG's engineer. Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the IdOMUSIC podcast, and I'm sitting down with audio engineer, Grammy nominated, platinum, you're just everything, Dee Brown, Patchwerk. What up?
That's good. That's good. How you doing?
Was that a great intro?
Yeah, sure.
You know, I try to do what I can. Nah, but for real, for those that don't know, Dee has worked with some of the greats, a lot of the greats actually through his time here at Patchwerk and beyond, from Kanye's Life of Pablo, Kendrick, Good Kid, Mad City, Chris Brown, Waka, Jeezy, Gucci, literally Cash Money, Kelly Price, like anybody you probably could name during that time, you were around for it. So how does it feel to be a legend amongst the greats?
I was an intern like everybody else.
Yeah, so
no, it's cool.
You actually started at Patchwerk in 2008. Mm-hmm. How did you end up at Patchwerk? Like, we'll talk about, you have a military background.
Oh, yeah.
You currently work with YG. So we'll get into all of those things. But I'm curious because, I've known you since, obviously, I started here at Patchwerk. But how did you end up in Atlanta at Patchwerk?
When I was getting done with school, my last, 2 months, I started researching the different studios in different areas. But basically, it was cost of living. I didn't want to go to a place where I was going to be struggling to live and then trying to intern and do all, come up. So Atlanta just seemed like the better fit. One of my moms actually had a friend that was down here that was going to let me rent out her house.
Oh, dope.
So it was kind of like one of those things. So I basically just started sending out resumes, Tree Sound, Silent Sound, Patchwerk, like whoever would try to hire 11th Street, I think. Was that not 11th Street, but Beach Street? Mean Streets.
Mean Streets,
yeah. No, not Mean Streets. They weren't around yet. It was Hot Beats is what it was.
Oh, Hot Beats.
Yep.
So where did you go to school?
I went to Full Sail in Orlando. Yep.
Got you.
Yep.
So that was like a quick move to Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. I've actually moved from Virginia to Orlando to do school for a year, and then from Orlando to Atlanta. And then, I did I was in Atlanta for pretty much 10 years, 10, 11 years.
Wow. How does it feel to not be in Atlanta? Like,
it's
to
cool.
be living in LA?
I don't know. It's the United States. Everything's the same. We have grocery stores and McDonald's everywhere, so it don't matter.
I feel like there's a little bit of a difference from living in Atlanta and LA.
It's, I think the not personalities, but the freedoms of the world are a little bit different elsewhere kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so, then you ended up at Patchwerk. You interned, like you said, you go through the process of interning and getting your feet wet a little bit in the business. What were some of the initial things you learned, this being your first taste of actually being in the industry after school?
That this is not what it seems. You have your conceptions or your thoughts of what goes on in a studio or how music is made, and then when you actually start to see what's going on, you're like, that is nothing like I thought it was.
What did you think?
My first one was actually Usher. I really thought he wrote Confessions. I'm not even going to lie on that one.
Yeah.
I know you can go through the credit list and all that, but at that time, not what I did. I basically learned that there's songwriters, there's a whole lot of things that go on in the studio that I just wasn't quite aware of. That It's not just a guy coming in playing the guitar and the bass.
Right. There's a lot of components.
Right.
And then, aside from that, what are some of the things you took in as an intern when you weren't actually doing any sessions just yet about, I guess one thing so Dee was featured on Pensado's Place, which is a dope podcast, and it's a podcast, right? Yeah. I watched it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
One thing that I really enjoyed after watching that interview that stuck out to me in that conversation was when you spoke briefly about having boundaries with your client or the artist. Mm-hmm. Why is establishing boundaries, and I'm sure that's something you learned throughout the process, why is establishing boundaries important in your line of work to be taken seriously? We've seen so many people walk through here. So it was kind of like the initial conversation when you first walk in. Yeah. You see the plaques, you see who's worked here, to not be starstruck or... So, why is that important to establish those boundaries?
Because comfortability in the session. You don't want I mean, from what like I said, when I came up, it was a different time. So I saw people get fired for trying to take pictures and be extra friendly. It was just, you have to separate business from the personal life. And people kind of forget that because we're in the studio and it's a comfortable environment, but it's still work.
Facts.
Like, this is my job, is what I do for a living. So I do have to have some balance or breaks from the other side.
Had you ever been starstruck? Like, has there been a moment where you rocked?
Cat Williams came in here and worked. I got to assist on that. Corey actually engineered, and he let me sit in. He was working on an album. He basically came in and freestyled like 14 songs, something like that. But that was cool. Like, that was interesting. I think an actor, the dude from 40-Year-Old Virgin, the black guy, Tony Romero, he came in. That was kind of cool. I get more interested on like comedians and actors and stuff. The artist is cool, but I always remember this is my job, so I kind of keep it inside.
Right.
It's like, it's cool. Like, Alicia Keys comes here, it's like, oh my, keep it inside. Just keep it inside.
Keep your composure.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about like how you even found your interest in music, your love for music, coming up, being born in Germany. Like, I'm sure you have like a cultural perspective that's a little bit different from others, potentially. I don't know. I'm speaking for you, but how did you first figure out that this was something you would be passionate about in terms of music, and then engineering,
For me, it was just, I've always enjoyed music. Like I said, it's just, music for me has always been like my kind of friend. It's like moving around and being a military brat, you change a lot. So that was my constant. When I got into the military, I started DJing. And so I kind of found my, this is what I found myself, that this is when I was at my happiest, is when I was playing music and doing all those things. So when I got a regular job after the military, not happy with life, you're like, man, this isn't right. What did I do that made me happy? I worked with music. Well, at that time, I was kind of like, I don't think I can be a DJ per se, and I didn't really want to do the club lifestyle. So I was trying to find something that got me into music, but I could kind of handle. And then I did a year of research. I found engineering at Full Sail and kind of was like, the rest is history. I was like, oh, let's go for it.
So, I mean, aside from DJing, did you ever have aspirations of being like an artist, a producer, like working on the other end of the spectrum?
Yeah, me and my friends, we all wanted to be rappers and artists. We used to drive up to Canada and literally tell the clubs, like, we have an album coming out in the States and we need to perform tonight. Would it be cool? And these people would let us go up there.
Are you serious?
Dead ass.
What? So you performed in Canadian clubs?
We performed in Canadian clubs. No songs, no nothing. We didn't have a plan. It would be the most embarrassing things ever in life, but we would do it. Like, it was just what we did. It was fun. So yeah, that was definitely a thing amongst us in the military. It was like being an artist or a crew type thing. But.
Wow, that's dope. That's funny. I wasn't expecting you to say yes to that one. I just thought you were going to be like, nah, never. Okay, so, I mean, is it something today that you would, like, explore outside of engineering in terms of, like, production, being around?
Yeah, I kind of dabble in making beats and stuff. I kind of look at it like in this business, it's like we have so many jacks of all trades and not really, and I'm trying to be like a master of a trade. So making beats and being a songwriter and doing that and doing it, like, it's cool, but I want to be the best at something.
Right.
So I dabble in making beats. I dabble in doing these other things.
So, I mean, with your experience over the years, starting here 2008 is 2019. That's a lot of years and time you put into this craft. But I did also hear you talk about, like, always learning and always teaching yourself new things. What sort of new things are you learning as an engineer? I mean, obviously software changes and, gear changes and those things. But like right now, as today, what is Dee like learning? What are you soaking in?
Just how to apply all of these tools to better uses. For me, I take my time more because when I want to go into a session, the climate of today doesn't allow you to take time to do a lot of extra work. So I can't sit there and be like, okay, let me see what kind of cool effect I can put on this guy's vocals. I need to have that in my bag, ready to go. So at home, practicing, I'm learning how to make these effects and tricks so that I can pull them out quickly when I want them. that's more what I mean, like the learning process. Once you know what a compressor is, you know what a compressor is.
Right.
But now how to kind of manipulate that compressor. You know what I mean?
Facts. So, so how long were you in the military? That's
4 years, 3
4
years,
years.
3, 4 years. I got out a little early, but it was.
So how do you think that helped you, like, in terms of what you're doing today? If it did, because I can imagine you had a schedule, you were learning to be disciplined, you were learning to be organized, for sure. Those things.
Exactly.
And I mean, obviously learning how to DJ in the military.
That was a side thing, but yeah.
Kind of helped with what you're doing today. But I mean, do you see that those things apply in the studio?
Of course.
And how?
Because, like you said, there's all those things. Attention to detail, your discipline. People can count on me regardless. My demeanor is the same at 5 a.m. that it is at 2 in the afternoon, regardless if I've had no sleep or bad. It's how I function in the world, basically, is because, it's from the military. Like, they teach you that. People make fun. They'll be like, oh, you got to fold a shirt, real small, and it's like, it's not about folding a shirt super small.
Right.
Can you follow my directions and accomplish the goal that I've given you? That's what it's about.
Facts. So when you started your career here, I mean, from Usher to like all these people, what's one thing that you say, like, I mean, because you don't have a clientele in the beginning.
Right.
Like, how are you working to build your clientele? How are you working to be able to track a session? Like, talk to the engineer that hasn't quite just graduated from Full Sail, you know what I mean?
For me, I was basically one of the guys at the front desk, rapped. Marlon plays one. Mm-hmm. So when we had downtime, I'd be like, get in the booth, and I'd just start practicing. Like, I mean, whoever can do whatever you need done, have them go help you. Go in the booth and let me just work. Because he's not under any pressure. He knows that I'm practicing, so it was just an even trade. Like, okay, you get some bars off, I get to practice doing this, I get more comfortable, get faster, because he's definitely one of those one more time. So it was like
trying to make it perfect.
Exactly. So basically utilizing your time to perfect your craft so that you're comfortable when you're called upon.
Right.
That's really what it is.
I mean, I feel like it's a lot of patience that comes along with that as well.
Yeah. But if you got to remember, I mean, it's patience, but when the time comes, if you're not ready to step up, then you just missed your chance.
Facts.
Like
that's with anything.
Yeah. Hey, Dee, so and so didn't show up today. Can you come handle this real quick? Oh no, I didn't do my practice, so I'm not ready for that. Well, guess what? They're probably not gonna call you for another couple months. That might have been your one chance or whatever. So you need to be prepared. So
that's true.
Yeah.
So early on, you talked about like not turning down any sessions. Mm-hmm. Like, why didn't you turn down any sessions early? I mean, I know the answer.
Yeah, but you know why?
But why?
I mean, because I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get better, and you don't get better by not doing so. And then Nico, one of the other engineers at the time, he was like, "Don't do it. Like, don't turn down anything. Like, this is your chance." And then it's also, I looked at it like it's an opportunity to build with new people. So somebody comes in, it's their first time. It's now we've got a connection,
right?
And we can start growing and building, kind of like with me and YG. Like that was.
How did that come about?
I got booked on a session, and luckily enough, I did well, and everything just clicked, and we spent 3 months. We ended up doing 3 months here. I think it was only supposed to be like a couple weeks, but everything just kept flowing.
So they just request you to be on the session from moving forward.
Right. And then they kept calling me back for the other stuff. So then when still the second album came up, they called me, hey, can you come to LA and work on this album? Sure, of course. Wow. I'm an engineer. I that's one thing about it. It's like, we are engineers, so doing our job, we can do our job everywhere. So don't be afraid to go somewhere to try it, to just work.
Why is the chemistry between the engineer and the artist important? Because you don't really hear about, you hear about like the producer and the artist or the songwriter, those people. Because
I'm capturing their moments. Mm-hmm. I mean, their intimate moments and all that stuff, their stories, like they're spreading, they're prepared to give this out to the world, and you're the guy that's capturing it and helping them bring that out. So, that being together, it's very important because you got an idea to convey.
Yeah, I'm sure people will be curious to know about you working with YG a little bit. So much that you actually, now taking your talent to LA, you work with them a lot more often than not. Working consistently with an artist, this is like your first time, like, working with the artist like this. How has that experience been for you? I mean, obviously you enjoy it because you wouldn't have taken on the opportunity, but how's that experience been for you? Like kind of uprooting your life and changing your life and adapting to another situation and like all those things, I wonder.
I mean, I looked at it like, for me personally, it was one of my goals as an engineer was to be a personal engineer for somebody. I wanted to get with an artist or a producer that was coming and then going to be on top, you know what I mean, and actually working and putting stuff out. So I got lucky in that regards with YG, but then it just, how do I say this? Kind of forgot what the question was.
Just like consistently working. You're silly. Consistently working with an artist, like, this is what I imagine from an engineer's perspective. Is like, you guys don't know what you're getting thrown at you. It's kind of like, hey, Toya calls y'all, the manager here. Hey, there's a session with Bobby Brown. Like, can you do this? Yeah. And then you do that. And then, okay, can you stay because now Usher wants to come in and do this. So it's such a, like, you'd adapt anyway. Right. But, like, then to consistently work with someone, now that I know that was your goal, it makes sense. But, how can you really develop that relationship with somebody to get to a point of consistent work like that?
Just by doing good work.
True.
I mean, I do good work. Anytime he has a thought or an idea or whatever, I can get it to him. He's happy. Why call in anybody else?
Right.
As soon as you call in somebody else, and now you got to re-explain your terminology, your thought process. Like that. That's the part about it, is like you get comfortable with somebody. You don't have to explain the little things anymore.
That's true.
You can just be free to do. So I guess as an engineer, I take away a lot of problems that they could possibly have to make them think about the other stuff.
That's facts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're touring and stuff too? You've been on
kind
tour?
of. Yeah, they basically asked me to go on the road to do recording on the road. And then it gets a little, like, recording on the road's not the easiest thing in the world. So basically I as a person don't like being bored, and I found that I have another niche that I can do. So I was like, hey, I can also do front of the house sound.
Oh, dope.
And they're like, oh, well, we need a front of the house guy, so get up there.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's pretty how, I mean, I kind of just snuck into that, but it was more of I was bored and there was an opportunity. I stepped up, like.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you enjoy tour life?
It's cool. It's cool.
Being able to travel.
Yeah, it's a break from the studio, which is nice, but I'm a studio rat. I love this place.
Yeah. So, I mean, before working with YG, you were working with people from Gucci, Waka, Jeezy, Cash Money, like these sessions early on. Can you recall like one of your most memorable sessions and why? And I use those artists as an example because obviously these are like trap artists.
Oh, of course.
We've heard the stories, and how it could be in that type of environment. You as the engineer kind of just being a wallflower in a sense, like, fly on the wall. What was one of the most memorable sessions, and like what did you take away from that, like just being able to work with those type of guys?
You can't play around. They're not really about the jokes and the games. Yeah. So, be on your P's and Q's. You mess up, somebody might punch you in the face, kind of thing. So being a little bit more prepared for situations is that. My most memorable is still the Waka session where we did no hands, because it was just so organic. It was actually Gucci had booked out both rooms. Mm-hmm. Him and Corey were working in 9000 in this room, and he had asked drummer to make beats over 995. So I went over there and Corey's like, well, D can do that side. So I went over there with drummer. We set up his MPC, his sound modules. We had all, everything going. And then Waka and Roscoe showed up, and they were like, "Oh, what is this?" And he was like, "Oh, this is something I'm doing for Gucci." And Waka was like, "Hold up." Went over here, came over to 9000, talked to Gucci, came back over, was like, "Nope, it's mine now." Roscoe had, like, I guess he was sitting in the studio the whole time while Waka was doing that. Yeah. And so he was working on the hook, basically.
Yeah.
So when Waka was like, yo, this is mine, he went in the booth and did a hook and was like, oh, here we go. It was like, it was just so organic. Yeah. And then later on, Wale showed up. He did a verse.
That all happened in one day.
Yeah. It was literally all one day. We were there from, I think, like 4 in the afternoon until like 5, 6 the next morning. But it was just doing that one song, this is like, it was cool. So
let's talk about the fact that, you know, you guys don't really sleep. How do you maintain like a balance? I mean, obviously you're capable in a sense. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, so you're able to book your sessions. You're able to say like yay or nay. But I mean,
hungry are you?
During this, right? How hungry are you?
Simple as that. How hungry are you? Do you want to sleep all day? Do you want to get this done? Like, I guess for me, it was assisting the R. Kelly sessions. The other assistant had to go out of town, so I took over for the week that he was gone, and they did not stop working. They booked, I think they were here for 2 months. They did not stop working for 2 months straight. There was always somebody here 24/7 doing something, working on music. And when you see that, you're going, oh, well, if I'm going to get to this level, then
this might be here too.
Right. This might be what it is.
Facts.
So I spent 4 straight days in the studio. No sleep.
Wow.
I literally left to go take a shower and come right back.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's different dedication right there. It's a little different.
How bad do you want it?
Engineer and artist. Would you say your journey's been different from your peers as an engineer? No? Who are some of the people you like look to? I mean, I know you worked with pretty much everybody who is here, but like, you know, who are some people that you looked up to in terms of like engineering, or you studied, I guess?
Oh, all of the guys here.
Yeah.
Like everybody here was on their P's and Q's, and they were all top in the game. And when you heard people outside talk about, oh man, you got to, you know, listen to Miles or Nico or Leslie or Corey, you know, you hear these names outside, you're like, oh, I work with these guys. No, I literally, I take from everybody, or what I can take, I try to take from everybody, because everybody has pieces or something different that they bring, so you can learn. You know, like I said, Leslie was very good with the people skills and the, you know, being creative. So learning that side from him was something. Being technical, I got from Mike, because Mike's very knowledgeable on that stuff. Mm-hmm. So you know, you get what you can. So
what else would you say you need to have like knowledge of in terms of, or like even personality traits or as an engineer? Because you mentioned being a people person, obviously, like having to work with different people.
I wouldn't say you have to be a people person, but
because I'm like, honestly, there's so many personalities at Patchwerk that is so interesting to me that y'all are able to adapt to different sessions.
Exactly.
Because I mean,
that's the beauty of music.
It's so interesting. So you don't think that you have to be a people person necessarily?
Not necessarily, because I mean, as long as you can operate that board and them skills, and you got music sounding good, I might not need to talk to you.
Facts. Facts. But I mean, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, to have
of course.
Sort of,
I mean, because then
because
then now you're the, you know, people want to talk to you a little bit. Stuff yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we talked about you being Grammy nominated. Yeah. Kanye, Life of Pablo, Kendrick, Good Kid, Mad City. Mm-hmm. I think you had one with Chris Brown as well. That was Grammy nominated.
Yep. And then the R&B stuff. I got R&B Divas.
Yeah, R&B Divas. Mm-hmm. So how did it feel? What was the first one? What was the first Grammy that you were nominated for?
I actually think R. Kelly was my first one.
Oh, really?
His Untitled album. I mean, even though I was assistant, but that was technically the first one. But Chris Brown would have been the first, because I got that actually with The Business, and I was working with those guys heavy. Those were like one of my first heavy clients.
Had Chris Brown?
The Business, the producers.
Oh, The Business.
Mm-hmm. So
that was through them.
Right.
Got you. So how did it feel like to know, like when you did it feel like anything?
No, the one that was cool was Kendrick. The Kendrick Lamar one was really cool, because that was album of the year. So that was more of a, you get to go to the Grammys and do this. So that was a little bit cooler.
You went to the Grammys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did actually go. Yeah, I wore a nice little suit.
You wore a suit?
Tux, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the one few times you'll see me all decked out.
Mad City was a great project, though.
It was really good.
Did you were working on that?
I did. I mean, like I said, I think I told the story on Pensado's Place, but I mean, that one was once again working with The Business, so it's more of a...
True.
That's what I'm saying. You start learning that you can work on projects and not necessarily work directly with somebody, but you affecting how we have the intro song. Then we set the tone for that album. Nice. So, you know, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
People, you know, you like, oh, well, you didn't actually work, but it's like, no, we're there.
Part of it. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, a lot of y'all, you know, are not necessarily in the studio with the artist, but I mean, it's all a part of the process.
Exactly. And that's technology too. We can do this from everywhere and still be together. You know, we can work on a session right now here, and somebody can be over there and we just send files back and forth.
Right.
Like it's.
But do you think that's like a convenience, or do you appreciate being in the studio with like
both.
throughout the process?
I like being in the studio throughout the process, but it's all. I mean, it's where we're at right now, so it definitely helps. It's fun. It doesn't affect me either way. But yeah, I enjoy being in the process from start to like the whole thing. It's just cool.
Why do you think people call on you for the job, like you specifically?
Because that's what was my goal in life. I'm not even joking about that. I used to literally sit there and be like, they're going to call you because they got to get you. Nobody else can handle this job. It's like I said, it's because I try to set myself up to be something that nobody else can replace. You can't do what I do because I'm me. You know what I mean? So right. I look at it like that. Yeah, I think they call on me because I'm consistent. You know what you're getting. And yeah.
Dope. So I guess more so like about like what type of person you are. I feel like you have to have a certain attitude in the studio. What type of attitude do you think is needed to be a good engineer, a great engineer, especially within hip hop specifically? It kind of goes back to working with the Gucci's, working with the Wakas, like understand it's a different style than you going in the studio with like Ariana Grande or something. Yeah. You probably wouldn't even go in the studio.
I guess I would say know your place. I would too, of course.
Oh. No, not you specifically. Oh, yeah. Like a lot of people aren't working directly with the Ariana Grande.
Yeah, I got you. No, I understood. But I mean that's just you know your situations, know your surroundings. Like if you come in working with Gucci, you know you're not going to be able to talk slick to him. So why? Hey, you might need to do this over again. Talking to like, you know what I mean? Like you know your place, I guess is what it is.
And why can't you be sensitive in these environments?
Like, because you have thick skin. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
I mean, their lives are rough too. Like, you know what I mean? You're still dealing with people that have their own world and art. So they're bringing their world into yours. They don't always match. So you just need to know, like, hey, I can't do certain things with this person. Really, I mean, I just think that's with everybody. You just shouldn't be like, kind of be yourself with everybody. But
what's the first thing? I mean, you're obviously it's a different for you in 2019 than it was in 2008. Mm-hmm. But initially walking into a studio with someone, or they're walking into the studio and you don't know them, like, what's the first thing that you're doing to like not just greet them, but like make it comfortable for the session?
For me, myself, like one of the things I was always told is you should have sports on the TV. Sports is always a common ground breaking for everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't really know anybody that doesn't like sports. So you can kind of have a ground, just find something that's a little bit common for everybody that you can have a conversation piece. Mm-hmm. And then once you start talking to somebody, generally that's all it takes.
Right.
And then once they get, you just start building the comfort levels. That's really all it is. And then, I guess it's really once somebody finds that once you do something for somebody that they didn't ask you to do is when you pop up in their mind, oh, that guy already had my delays and verbs and this thing going on. I didn't even ask him for that.
Right.
That
kind of being ahead of the curve.
Right.
How does an engineer control the room? And like, what does that even mean? I hear that often, like about an engineer trying to have like control, or not trying to, but having control of the room and the environment.
Well, because you got to remember, like here at Patchwerk, they don't allow smoking in the control room, so. What are you gonna do?
How many times have you had to be
too many?
Have you had to explain that?
Too many.
It's like after the 30th time they come in there, still want to ask.
Exactly. But the funniest thing to me is when people don't know who you are, so they think they're like, oh, well, I used to always smoke, and well, I would come in with so and so, and we'd smoke this place out. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. It's like no.
Cute.
It's like, yeah, exactly. Oh, well, Leslie let me smoke. Leslie doesn't like smoking, so there's no way in hell you did.
Way.
Get out.
No way. Yeah. I mean, it's a whole lounge upstairs. Exactly. People like convenience.
But sometimes and that has to do with a lot of the traveling around. So in LA, you can pretty much smoke in any control. Like nobody cares or is going to stop you. So once you have that comfort or that convenience, you just expect it everywhere. Right. And then when you come to a place, you're like, what do you mean I can't do it? my vibe's off. I can't, but you basically just do a crutch in their comfort zone kind of thing. So
Facts. So you mentioned like one of your goals being that you would work, directly with the client consistently.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other goals? And like, not to say that I don't hear often that an engineer would say like, well, this was one of my like engineer goals.
Right.
So, why was that important for you to even establish those goals early on?
I mean, you have to have goals in life, period. Or where are you going? What are you doing? Like, goals kind of set you up for learning some stuff or going somewhere. Like, I guess when you be like, hey, I want to get a Grammy, now you got a path, and what do you got to do to get there?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, for me, I would like to get a movie under my belt. Doing post-production for a movie. I definitely still want to get a Grammy. I would like to get one with YG just because that'll be cooler and more,
meaningful,
exactly.
Impactful.
We should have got one for My Crazy Life.
Honestly. You know how I feel about YG, so we won't go down about how much I love YG. But I mean, you actually, speaking of YG, worked with YG from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like inadvertently.
Exactly. And that's what's neat is you get to see the growth, you get to see I'm here for the journey, and it's fun to watch too.
Did he remember that you assisted? I mean, well, were you there? Was he there when you
No, he didn't. No, not at all. They were
just a mix.
Yeah, we just did the mix. He sent it over to us and stuff, so we did it. No, he doesn't even know. Sometimes he doesn't even know that I do front of the house sound for him.
You're just there.
Exactly. But and that to me is fine. Like I enjoy that because it's like, man, my shit sounded so awesome today, and you're like, yeah, I did that. Oh, you did that? Like, yeah, that's cool.
Right. Look at you, humble.
Yeah, you gotta be.
You gotta be a little humble. So I mean, like, so your goal is to get a Grammy, working in movies. I mean, I guess that's ideal because you're in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you been like connecting with people in that space? You think?
Not
learning?
Like I'm learning more because, like I said, there's people that do that, and that's their craft. So I'm not like trying to step on it. I'll get what coming to me as it's coming, but I want to be comfortable and ready. But yeah, it's still a goal. And LA is definitely one of those things. I mean, you meet people all the time, of course. YG's, got tons of people coming in and out, so you're meeting them. But I'm not. I don't feel like you don't call people and ask for things if you're not ready for it, because then you're just wasting people's time, and nobody likes that. And then they're not going to help you the next time. Like, oh yeah, that guy that wasted my time. Cool. Right.
You want to be prepared. I always talk to people about, because we always talk about networking and like meeting people in your relationships. Mm-hmm. But like I have sat with so many people on this podcast that are valuable for sure, and people are like, why don't you just reach out to so and so? I'm like, I don't have anything to say.
Exactly.
I don't have anything to take away from that yet. So that's a major key there.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You can still say hello and how are things going. But
I'm saying no point in asking for anything if you're not prepared.
Exactly.
There was something else. Oh, like now that you're in LA, what would you say was like a major takeaway from your journey here in Atlanta? Like obviously you worked at Patchwerk, or you've worked at Patchwerk and been a primary engineer here, someone we've always been able to call on, and now like you're in LA, and I'm sure there are things that you can take away from like what you've experienced here in this studio.
Like I said, to me, it's all the same. Like how you are in the studio doesn't change. Like the studio is a studio, mm-hmm. so the rules don't change.
But, I mean, just the culture, I guess, of like working in Atlanta is my question. Like, I think it's a little, just from my experience being here. I'm obviously like born and raised, so I've seen it my whole life. But Atlanta is a different vibe than LA. You learn different things like of how people work.
I think it's a different vibe because of it's the size. People forget LA is huge. It's like you can be over here and over there, and there can be there's way more pockets of music.
That's true.
That are going on. I think LA is more singer-songwriter than it is artist compared to Atlanta, where it's all artists. Right. But yeah.
Why would you say artists like YG would come down here and record so often, though? Like, what is
well, for somebody like YG, it's a break from the normal life. When he's in LA, he's home, so phone calls, people showing up, blah, blah, blah. You come to Atlanta, nobody can call you. Nobody can just pop up. You're fresh. Now it won't be like that, But before. But even still, now it would still be like that because it would only be other artists showing up.
Right.
But it would still be, it's more of a a comfort thing to get out of your zone. You're not,
What would be your advice to a budding, aspiring engineer who wants to be, traveling like Dee and living this life,
Be prepared. Be prepared. Balance your budget.
Balance your budget.
Yeah.
Talk about that. What does that mean to you?
No, you just have to be prepared because you never know what this, like, you can have a great run and then next thing you know, you're not working for a while and then what are you going to do? So you need to be prepared. Budget. That's one thing I definitely learned coming up is, oh yeah, man, I'm working. I'm good. Let me go get this and that. And then, I didn't work for 2 months. Ugh. Maybe I shouldn't have spent that money so you start learning those kind of things. So yeah.
Money management.
Yeah. Consistency. And then just, be prepared. Don't be afraid to step up when you see an opportunity, but also don't be silly and step up when you're not prepared either, because then you're just going to look even worse.
So today in Dee's life, what's your favorite part of the music process in terms of on the engineer side?
I've really been enjoying mixing a lot more. I like just to kind of be lost in my own zone, just getting the music sounding amazing and, kind of bringing the emotion out, whatever. But I really have been enjoying mixing more. Kind of been enjoying my own time, I guess, in the studio more than having the vibe and the crowd and all that stuff. But I don't know. I miss that too. I like that too. It's all together. Like, it's so weird.
Everything.
Exactly. I mean, if I could do it all, I would. But because you got to remember that the tracking session is the creative part. So like you're there in the inception, but people coming in and conversations, that's what helps make this music.
Right.
So.
Because I just imagine even with the mixing process, it could be a little lonely. Like you're in there.
You are, but only for a little while. And then they got to come in and listen to it. And then they're, oh yeah, that's it. Oh, that sounds great. Like,
have you ever come into contact with someone who just really hated the mix or hated something you did and
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how did you handle that situation?
Okay, it's cool.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, or just use what you've got, because obviously we're not if I can't give you what you want, then maybe you should just continue on with what you have. But it was recorded in a garage. They had crazy, and it was I delivered a more clean product, and they wanted the rough. It was okay, cool. Go with your rough.
I see.
It's cool. See. You can't take this personally. It's their music. It's not yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when somebody hands off, or explain this, I guess, they hand off the music to you to mix, are they telling you what they want, how they want it to sound? Or are they coming to you because they want it to sound like how you do your mixes? You know what I mean?
And that's where I'm kind of curious. I think it's both. Okay. I think, they come to you because you have a certain sound, so they want you to do you, but they also envision what they hear for their song. So they might be get it kind of like this, but
do your thing.
Do your thing too.
True.
Right.
So I always ask this question when I sit down with engineers, because it's a little different from sitting down with the producer, but because they're gonna get their credits. But now it's something that we've kind of been talking about in the engineering community, which is I just want to know how you feel about getting credits as an engineer, if there should be a point system in place the same way that there is for the other parts of the process in terms of music?
Yes and no. I guess it all depends. Everything depends. Because sometimes an engineer might not actually be doing a whole lot on a session. So do you really deserve all of the credit that you got? Mm-hmm. But we have some new plugins and programs that we can put in to tag songs so that they know that they were recorded by. But I don't know. It's a weird game. Yes, credits are very important and it's nice to get them, but what you did also.
True.
I didn't get my no hands credit, but I know I did it.
Right.
So
I was there.
Exactly. So do I get mad about it and be oh, screw this business because I didn't get my credit? Okay, big deal. Just go on.
I don't think in the sense of credits being important because of...
It's how we work. It's how it's not credit in hey, I did.
I want to know you. I did it.
It's more of hey, this guy works. This is what he can do. It's more of my resume. Exactly.
It's a resume.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yep.
Yeah, I think that is important. I also think that although we pay the engineer outright, for a product,
mm-hmm.
That is still people getting. You just see how much this record can do, and it's just
because you don't know, but because you don't know.
Yeah.
We're in the studio. I could be in the studio one day, record 10 songs, and none of them do anything.
Right.
Do I risk not getting paid for those 10 songs?
Facts.
Or do I just go ahead and get paid? And then, you know, the next day you do one song and it's the greatest song you've ever done, goes all out. You didn't know that. You did 10 songs the other day that didn't do anything either. So, you know, it's one of those things you never know. I wouldn't want to risk my, like, not eating or whatever to be like, oh, pay me, you know.
But don't producers get paid and then still get credit?
Yeah.
Still get, like,
yeah, but
residual?
Yeah, of course, but it's a little bit different.
It's different.
Yeah.
Because it's a part of it.
Yeah, because, I mean, they're the producer.
Right.
They made the beat. They made the
entire beat.
They made the beat. They, you know, it's kind of, they get it.
I just watch certain engineers who actually, like, put things together.
Oh, yeah, no, I do all of that. I do it. And for me, it's like, I don't, like, I think I had the conversation with Mustard and YG before, and they asked me, you know, is it important for you to get your, you know, producer credits or whatever? And I said, for me as an engineer, I want to do my job the best that I can do it. I don't expect anybody to give me, like, I'm not in here going, okay, I'm going to do these drops and do these effects, and they're going to be like, oh, I got to give them. Or I'm not going to not do those things and expect them, like, oh, if you guys don't pay me this extra money, then I'm not doing these things. It's like, I'm going to be a dope engineer regardless. That's what I'm here for. If you choose to give me extra on top of that, thank you very much. I'll rock with you forever, but I don't expect it. I don't turn around going, you like that? Pay me. Like, that's not how it works.
I mean, but I'm sure that really helps in people wanting to work with you, because, I mean, you shouldn't go into it necessarily with those expectations, but it's definitely a conversation to have.
But I could be screwing myself too, though.
It's a conversation to have. Like, engineers need some sort of, like, union or something.
That would be nice. But it's a free-for-all here sometimes, because, you know, I might be like, I charge, you know, whatever I charge an hour to track, and then the next guy's like, well, I only charge this much.
Facts.
Well, okay, you go to that guy, but then you come back like, well, he didn't track me very well and didn't do this and that, and it's like, well, you know, you heard his price.
So do you enjoy, like, working more with, like, an established artist at this point, or are you kind of just...
No, I like working, period, and I like anybody that's hungry for this, what they do. Like, I've been working with one of the newer artists, Day, and she's dope. Mm-hmm. It's fresh. It's something new, but she's willing to learn. She's trying. You know what I mean? That part makes it enjoyable again, because it's like you get to be an engineer. Like, hey, you should try to do it like this, and they're like, oh yeah, thanks. You know,
it's cool. That hunger is that. It's a little different. It's a different energy than
when there's somebody that knows what they're doing. It's already there. Like, yo, hey, you know.
Just do that. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you've touched on everything that I have, but I do feel like you have another story or something in there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure I got plenty. You might just have to catch. I might have to just do this like on a couch and like just intimate setting. Let me just tell you.
Let you just chat and talk your
and
shit.
Not actually know what's going on.
So what's next, Dee? You headed back to LA tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. Headed back to LA.
More work.
Hopefully.
More life.
Yeah, we finished an album. Hopefully we'll get started on the next one.
Y'all be moving.
Yeah, that's the whole plan.
Yeah.
I know Kamaya is about to drop her next project, so I got it.
Anthony over there. Yeah. Shout out to the bag.
Yep, I got her first single. I think the window, whatever her first one's coming. I think she just announced it. The Windows. Yeah, I think it's on her Instagram actually. Yeah.
Oh, perfect, perfect. You know, I'm here for all of that. Exactly. I'll see you soon in LA. Yeah. Any last words for the people coming up? Like, what they need to know about Dee, what they should do if they're aspiring? I mean, you said be prepared. That was like the main thing. Just be prepared.
Yeah. No, I don't really have anything. Just do you be prepared? Be ready. Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole. Important keys.
Don't think you're bigger than you are because you got somewhere. I see that a lot, like interns that get to the next step, like the assistant, and then they try to start shitting on the interns. It's like, bro, you were just there and you haven't got that far. Relax. Relax.
Right.
Like,
I mean, we actually didn't really touch on interning that much, but I think that's like a really big, important part of
it's a huge part.
Especially, I know, like, that's like here. I'm probably one of the only people that didn't intern before working here, but it still felt like an internship. But like, why was that process? I know it was probably difficult. You weren't getting paid. You know, you had to like do all these runs or whatever. But like, why do you think you had to go through that in order to get where you are today?
Because you're showing people, you're showing people what you're capable of initially, and it has, like, we try to explain it. It has nothing to do with you actually going to McDonald's and getting. I could really give a shit. Can you do it right? I got $1 million board over here. We have people, clients that, you know, are flying. Are you going to mess up their vocals? Are you going to forget to add their, you know, beats in? Like, what else are you going to forget? If you can't do the little task,
Facts.
you're not doing the big task.
That's true.
So that's what the internship is about. It's show me what you're capable of before I let you mess with this other stuff.
Are you letting people study under you? You like people?
Yeah, I let anybody sit in if I can. It's sitting in on a session is more about the artist and not necessarily. I mean, I could give it, like, you can sit in with me all day,
That's
but
true.
it's more about the artist. But yeah, I'll let anybody sit in. I'll try to help anybody I can. I recommend if you're sitting in on a session, write your questions down, save them, and then ask them at the end. Try not to interrupt the engineer while he's doing his thing, because you never know what he's thinking about. And your one question could have stopped his whole
process.
And now they don't want you to be an assistant in their session. So
Facts.
Yeah.
Dope. Tell them where they can find you, Dee, and get some more. I mean, I guess get in touch with you if possible on social media.
Yeah, social media. I think I was really on my Instagram is at the D247 THED Tango Hotel Echo Delta 247.
Oh my gosh. Dee has a lot of cool photography on his page too. You know, he dabbles and dabbles in some film things.
That is definitely a hobby.
I love your photos though. I wish you would invest more time into getting out of the studio and taking pictures.
I will try that.
You'll try it too?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming and sitting down with us. This is like one of the all-stars here at Patchwerk. I mean, they are all phenomenal engineers, but definitely somebody you want to watch and study. So thank you. And as always, you guys can find this podcast at IDM Podcast on social media, as well as myself, Sammy Approved, on all social media platforms. Thank you. Sonic.